Just Daryl, can we just start with an injury prognosis on Renner Fatoni and Caleb Hamlin-Welly, if you could, please?
Yeah, both out this week, so it's it makes us a little bit thin. I was reading Adrian Lamb's comments yesterday, and look, we're pretty skinny here, obviously with quite a lot. We've got a full pack missing, really. A pack that'd go pretty well in Super League. So, but it is what it is. I think we potentially get Truey back this week, so we have got some players coming back in, but yeah, we're a little bit skinny, that's for sure.
How serious are their respective injuries? I think Renner's a calf and Caleb's his arm, isn't it?
Yeah, Caleb's got a nerve injury that I mean I know I've had some of that myself in the recent past. It can take from a week to a fair while to come back. So we're not sure on Caleb. Hopefully it's not too bad. Ranulf is different. He's going to be. It looks like a 12-week plus injury, that one. So obviously disappointing for Ranulf and for us. So with what we've already got in our middle unit missing, it's adding up a little bit, which at the moment is pretty tough. But well, we've got pretty pretty decent depth in the middle, but it's certainly being challenged at the moment.
To that end, what particular options do you have in those positions?
Well, we've obviously we've got Caius, Mikey, Pitsy, mainstays. Isaiah will probably play in the middle rather than back row. And Cos has been in there for us, so we've still got good players in those positions, but we aren't picking from strength. Obviously, Castleford have signed a fair few middle unit players, so I think they're potentially leaving players out at the minute, which is it's flipped on its head from a couple of weeks ago when they would have probably been disappointed that they didn't beat us. So yeah, an interesting one. Playing the same team twice in 3 weeks. Yes. Keep talking about the fixture list. It's been mad, hasn't it?
Danny McGrath's just said he's had 25 in training today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that backs up what you were saying. How big a boost is it to have Jacob Truman back, and sort of how mindful do you have to be of his lack of match time of late?
Oh, I don't know. No, just sure he's a smart player, isn't he? So it's great to have him back. I don't think mindful really. I think hopefully he can get into a game. He's been training pretty hard, but obviously he hasn't been doing a lot of the stuff that he's needed to do on the field. But his fitness, he'll be fine. It's having two halfbacks on the field and getting our spine something like would be great because we haven't had that for much of the season really. So I think that's obviously a plus point uh, from us. So we feel like that's a real positive. But obviously there's other parts of the team that we're a little bit lighter in. But the season sort of gets you like this at times, and we just have to deal with it. I'd expect Castleford will be feeling pretty good about themselves. They obviously won last week. They were pretty close against us, and we'll feel a little bit unlucky that they didn't win that game. So um, yeah, I think they'll be feeling good about themselves, and I think they've done a good job. I think Danny Maggs has, I think I was getting asked last time when we played him about him and where and did I have any advice for him? I think he didn't really need any at the moment. They'll be pretty happy where they're at, and they've stiffened up the ranks. So uh, yeah, it's going to be a tough game for us, that's for sure.
Obviously, at the Magic Weekend, what's your broader feelings on the concept with the 18th year of the Magic Weekend this year?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it. I think going to it's kind of a party atmosphere for the fans, which I think is great. It breaks the season up a little bit. Third of the way through, I think it's awesome, really, in terms of the I think St James's Park is really good as a venue. You know, I just think it feels great when you go and play there. So it's great for fans, and it's I think the teams see it as something special. It's like playing a final almost, you know, with the way it's set up. So I think it's quite exciting. I think the boys are looking forward to it. I think all the teams do. So I think for rugby league, it's a great event. I mean, if the Aussies are nicking something off us, it's a decent event, isn't it? So and that's what's happened with Magic.
You're the closing fixture as well. Do you just get in there and get out, or do you go earlier and watch a bit of the game before or something like that?
Well, you always see a little bit of the game before, you know, just with it being, it's almost like a curtain raiser when you're at your home stadium if you have them. So yeah, we'll be there to see a bit of the game before us, which is always good. It's good because you get a sort of sense of the atmosphere. You know, I think that's all. I always really enjoy that bit where there's different fans there, and it's got a good feel about it.
You'll have been involved in a fair few of the Magic Weekend fixtures. Do any stand out, any magic moments, even if it's not from a club that you've been involved in?
Oh, I had a couple of, sort of really because when I was at Castleford, I played numerous teams. You know, we started with Wakefield and then went through Leeds and Warrington, and had some big performances in there. You know, scoring some pretty special tries at times. But I think it's more just the atmosphere and what it feels like. You know, I think St James's Park has been the best one that I think. You know, I think that's it's a really good place to hold it. But just overall, I think it's been awesome for rugby league, and whether you keep it the same place or you move it, I think it's just such a good thing to do.
Danny Maguire's also just admitted that they have been practicing drop goals this week. Has it been the same down there?
Yeah, I think it's something that's obviously, I mean, we've been in our last two games have gone, to the wire really. Obviously, Castleford game didn't go to Golden Point, but it wasn't far off, and then we at Catalan, obviously that was pretty tough to take. I thought we probably should have won that game later on, whether we deserved it or not. We had an opportunity down our right hand side just before we got that penalty to score and get level. But yeah, I think look, they're important now. You never know when it's going to come. And for us, we've sort of, we've been playing with Pitsy at half, so we only had one option really, and then obviously Max is a fullback. So it's something that we need to work on to make sure we tuned in when you do get to those scenarios.
Do you feel like it could be as close this time?
Yeah, I mean it was. I reckon before we played them last time, everybody thought we was going to win. We were going to win the game easy, but I never felt like that. I just think it's a derby game, and I just thought they played completely differently to what they had been before, and that happens. It could be, it could be. I think you'd say they'd be pretty strong favourites this time. I think, looking at the way things have gone with our injuries um, and Castleford strengthening, and I reckon the last two performances will have given them a whole lot of confidence, really. So they'll come into it feeling like they've got a great chance. For us, I think we've been awesome this year. This is a big challenge for us, that's for sure.
Just lastly from me, Daryl, I don't need to tell you there's been a glut of cards across the comp, hasn't there, for head contacts, and a lot of it has been on big guy on small fullback or something like that. Is it something that you're having to go back to the squad and remind them about contact areas or something like that? Or do you think it'll just work itself out?
But some of them they're pretty hard to stop, aren't they? I think it's. And for me, it's gone too far. I think you look in Australia, what's happening there? They're saying it's gone too far. They're where we were last year, and I think ours has escalated again. And I look, something's got to change with the game because I just think the game's going on too long, aren't they? And everybody's talking about video referees. Everybody's talking about negative things really when we've got a great game that we should be focusing on. And I think the more they can get a grip on video referees and captains' challenges and all that, and make better decisions, I just think that's going to really help us because the last thing we want is to be talking about negative things all the time. It's madness, really.
Is there any reason why it's happening more recently? Because the season didn't start off that way, did it? But once the first one was given for a similar thing, it's just
Yeah, I just
it's
think
gone
that.
on, hasn't it?
But for personally, I just think they're overthinking it. If I'm honest, some of the things that you say, I was like, "Holy shit, this game's so things are happening so quick. Yeah, you can slow things down all over the place, and players can't play in slow motion. And yet they're expecting too much for me. So I just think you've got to be realistic of what our game is, and we don't want swinging arms, but there's a lot of things happening in a game, and we'll have nobody on the field soon. So I just think we've got to create positive stories and news around the game and what's going on and what these unbelievable athletes do to play what is an awesome game. So I think he's don't want to make a big thing out of it. I don't want to because I'm making more of it. You know what I mean? We don't need that. We just need to celebrate what's a great game. It's going to be in a great venue, and for all the fans that are going to be there, it's to have a city centre venue like you've got there, so they can nip out, have a few drinks, have something to eat, come back in and watch games, watch other teams play. I just think it's great, and that should be what the focus is this week. I think.
Just one last question on that about the eye tackles. Brad Arthur and Willie Peters both said last week that as coaches that they find it really hard now to do any more on the training field week to week. That they're telling the players the right contact areas. The players are listening, but accidents happen, don't they? Do you have similar challenges as a coach as well that you've kind of done all you can now?
Yeah, well, things happen so quick. It's a contact sport, isn't it? And a lot of what we see in are penalties. The penalties for me, and I think if somebody's coming in and swinging eye tackles and doing crazy things, then they're bins. But there's a lot of it that are just look. It's things are happening quick. People like they're talking about mitigation. It's mitigation. It's mitigation, isn't it? We have the people who look after disciplinaries to sort that out. So I just think we should have 13 on 13 more. Bins are playing way too much of a part. What they're trying to stop? What are we trying to stop? You know what I mean? You're trying to stop reckless tackles, not accidental ones for me. So I think that if you go into it and be a little bit more sensible about that, then I think we'd be better off.
Just on Renoff, obviously he had a really difficult sort of introduction a couple of years ago in Super League. He was thrust into that team that really struggled, but he's come back and he looked a real Super League player, didn't he? I mean, how big a blow is it for him and for you as well?
Yeah, tough for Rennes because he's come back and been really good. I mean, that try that we scored just for half time last week, Renouf's had a couple of touches of the ball there. For a middle unit player to do that is outstanding. So it's a big blow. It's a big injury. 3 months is a long time to be out of the game. So yeah, disappointing, but he's what it is, part of the game. So we just have to next man up. We've got, like I say, we've got some strong players here. Caius Fartilli, for example, who's really starting to blossom as well. So Renz and Caleb are going to be big losses for us because both of them are outstanding rugby league players. But every team's saying similar things. Really, most teams are saying similar things that they've got some players missing, and that's the way rugby league is. Tough sport.
Quite a luxury to be able to pick two halfbacks alongside each other this weekend. I know Pitsy's done a good job, hasn't he? But nice to have two out and out halves in there.
Yeah, well, I just think we've either put Pitsy there or we move Max to play at half, and then Josh does a decent job at fullback, but our number one fullback at the moment is Max Jowett, so always up. I think last year Matty Pete were talking about if you take their two gun players out, what does it look like? And we've been the same. Every team really. If you take your fullback and your main half out, well, what's going to happen? It throws people out of sync, and I think we've done a really good job. We could easily be another 3 wins to the good, but we're not, and we're learning lessons every week, and I think we've done an awesome job so far. Tough challenge this week, but it is what it is. You have games like this, You know, all through my career, I've been at times without 10, 11 players, and it's going to get every team at some point, I think, unless you're very, very lucky.
Just lastly from me, I know you only played them 3 weeks ago, but compared to maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, do they look like a different proposition, Cass? Obviously, they brought some big bodies in. They look a bit bigger in the middle. Is that where they've maybe changed a little bit, do you think?
Yeah, well, I've signed 4 or 5 players, haven't they? You know, it's a bit of a luxury to do. You know, so yeah, they've looked different. I mean, they've brought Amon, was one of the best front rowers in the comp at Lee, and he comes in, and Desiree has done a decent job for him. Singleton, Salabio, you know, they've signed Atkin now, so they not look like a different team. They kind of are a different team, aren't they? Because you put 5 players in, to put 5 players in their team and take 7 or 8 out of ours, which is what's happened, then it does look different.
Just briefly from me, I think you sort of touched on it there. On the injuries, is this exceptional, do you think, that the run you're having at the moment? And is there anything is it just one of those things, or is there anything you can look at to sort of to try and prevent them?
No, I think a lot of them are. I mean, Renz is he's well into the game. He's torn his calf. I don't think there's anything much we could do about that. You know, Kai Rodwell, Doyley's, sort of contact injuries. Caleb's a contact injury. We got Seth Nicotimo, he's a contact injury. You know, it's Matty Staunton's a contact injury. So there's nothing we can do really. It's just the nature of the sport. It's pretty brutal, and I guess it's just bad luck really. You know, I don't think any of it's technique or anything like that or training practices. It's just the way that it is with the game. I just think more bad luck than anything.
And I suppose the positive is, hopefully you'll be getting people back for the business end, won't you? I mean, that's assuming that this bad luck doesn't continue, but
yeah,
there could be a real bonus for you later in the year.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the start of the year we've had spine issues because Truey's been out or Max has been out. You know, that's been really tough. Mason's sort of been carrying the team on his own as a halfback, and then we've got sort of absolutely hammered around the middle unit or our pack in particular. So yeah, it's hard. Yeah, but then you start to get players back. Yeah, like you say, we've just got to hold ourselves nice and firm, and I think we've been pretty consistent. We had a fair few players missing at the weekend, and took a full strength Catalan all the way there. So yeah, look, it is what it is. We've just got to keep battling on. We've said all the way through, next man up. Our squad's getting loads of experience. Like take Harvey Smith as an example. I reckon he might have been looking at 4 or 5 games this year, and he's up getting close to double figures now, and for him, that sort of elevation of experience, and he's really showing that he's going to be a player for the future, and he's a player for now the way he's playing. Those are sort of sideline things that happen when you get injuries that are real positive signs.